Hey the rulers, DMO73 here, bringing you the deck profile for the Tag, Reflect, and Refrain kind of first draft. Let's go ahead and jump right in.
This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for product, and FoulLibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists,
as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen, King Pearl Shine, and Mognite.
Class is in session.
So here is the list. It is designed to kind of primarily focus on a lot of RR cards. I did make some tweaks to it from what you saw in the feature match, not too many. I do think there is room for improvement in this deck in terms of cutting some cards and improving some numbers. But this was a kind of initial idea of we only get 2 of each contract. We pulled a Reflect and Refrain in our box, so we went ahead and bought, 1 more of each of them. Let's see what we can do. And so obviously we're playing a green-white build in the main, and then you see there is some splash red, and that is because of Rogue Spectator. Primarily, Rogue Spectator is a way for us to be able to contract Reflect on our own terms by doing this whole remove target spell that was not played from a hand this game. If you do, you can contract it. If we play Rogue Spectator from the sideboard, it wasn't played from hand, so we can contract immediately there, which is very, very helpful. And then obviously we have Recorder of Worlds, and then Refrain is Mover of Worlds. We're playing 2 copies of each of those. We're playing 3 copies of Wanderer's Castle. Keep in mind that when playing Wanderer's Castle, as soon as you control a J-Ruler, it banishes. It's not a trigger, so it's just going to immediately die. We're also playing 2 copies of the Complete Rejection of the Wanderer Twins. You could probably go down to 1, in all honesty. It is a cool card, it is flashy, but getting to 7 counters based on the matchup can be a little bit tricky, especially with this build updated to have a little bit more heavy generation of counters. I think this card gets a lot better, but as it stands right now, I think you can cut it down to 1. 3 copies of Light of Megiddo to help to try to keep the boards clear while we're trying to set up. It is a very helpful card. It probably can go down to 2 or shift to the sideboard based on your local meta, but there it is. A powerhouse of the deck is honestly Magical Power Piggy Bank. This card generates so many magic counters so fast, and the fact that you can tap it, make counters, and then banish it is very good. Especially since it also serves as extra reach for burn damage, or it serves as spot removal, which is very helpful and limited in just green-white. Playing a couple copies of Unleashing Magical Power, sometimes you get like, 10 counters, and you're just like, oh, I'll pay 3 and pick 10 times, and you can just do some very silly things with this in grindy games. The real kind of main linchpin of the deck is Magical Rabbit, 4 times copy. This card is absolutely great for applying pressure, doing spot removal, and hoping to get your life total very high. It's very easy to get to 3 counters with this deck, which means this is just a 1-cost quick cast 8/8 that also removes something and gains you life, which is kind of nuts. We're playing 2 copies of Wanderer's Magical Storm. This could probably bump up to 3, honestly. It helps us to go get the contracts when we need them, as well as other 1-drop spells that we might play in the sideboard, or things like Fairer Spell. 3 copies of Windia, because I love this card, and it's just a really good card for grindy decks to be able to utilize and take care of like big threats, especially like J-Rulers that we don't have a lot of great spot removal for. This helps with that. 3 copies of Phoenix as an additional kind of flying finisher in the main deck to be able to also generate in those kind of will sinks. A couple copies of Young Wizard here, 3 copies as well to just, again, generate some ramp while also making those magic counters as fast as possible. I was playing Wings of Refrain. I definitely think this can be sideboarded. It just doesn't, because it doesn't generate any counters, it's more of a sideboard card for a matchup where it's going to get grindy, or if I just had the deck built to be able to generate a lot more counters. It's helpful that it cycles, and so it is certainly good to be able to stop your stuff from being discarded as well, but that's why I think for the most part it's a sideboard card. A Horn of Sacred Beast is a really nice way to recycle your contracts. And then lastly, 3 copies of Dark Alice. Now you will note here in the sideboard, I did mention Dragon of Megiddo and Megiddo Artificial Sun. These are sideboard cards that I would bring in against decks that have a lot of aggression. Very, very helpful. You probably want to change the stone base to better support this. Maybe a couple Moonshades or something like that. Dragon of Megiddo also, like a lot of your additions are going to get killed anyway with like Wanderer's Castle. When you go to try to do contract, this is going to die. So you might as well kill it on your own, get a 9/9 flyer, and also ramp a stone, which is just kind of why that was being played. And then Megiddo is also really helpful just to say like, I don't want to be attacked this turn, which is just really, really nice. So that is the deck. Again, this is kind of a first draft, kind of let's try out the the Reflect Refrain mechanics a little bit, see what we think. I definitely think there's room for improvement and look forward to trying that out. I'm also curious to see how you guys have been building Reflected Refrain, so let us know in the comment sections down below. You can also find a link directly to this deck on Force of Wind in the description as well, so you can check it out. But until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.